When you think of certain video game studios, your mind will inevitably go to their most noteworthy franchises. However, almost no development team makes it by just iterating on the same name over and over again, and if you dig a little deeper into the catalogues of some of the biggest studios in gaming, you're sure to find some diamonds in the rough. So, I'm Sai, this is WhatCulture, and these are 10 incredible forgotten games from massive studios. Number 10, Oni, Bungie. Bungie have proudly sat astride its few but major accomplishments for most of their life. I mean, if those accomplishments are Halo and Destiny, then why wouldn't you? But that doesn't mean they don't keep a few aces up their sleeve, like way up their sleeve. Oni is the only game developed by Bungie West and published by Gathering of Developers or Rockstar, depending on the system, a cross-platform cyberpunk actioner that marries its anime influences, noticeably Ghost in the Shell and Akira, with a third-person shooter/beat-em-up format. It puts us in the shoes of Konoko, an agent of the Technological Crimes Task Force who turns against her employers to uncover the secrets of her past. While its graphics and gameplay might not hold up to today, in 2001 it was quite something, and its stylish cover art caught the eyes of many. Sure, the shooting is nothing to write home about, but the fighting elevates it above similar titles with smooth, satisfying physics. Whilst Bungie paid homage to the title by naming a central organisation in the Halo universe after Oni, it's never returned to the IP. Regardless, it nurtured an underground following for years, leading dedicated fans to release the anniversary edition of Oni, which expanded on the retail game with a mod installer, patches for bugs, and new features. Number 9, Justice League Task Force, Blizzard. It wasn't until the late 90s that Blizzard found their role-playing niche, with the successes of StarCraft, Warcraft, and Diablo. Until then, they were dabbling in a bit of everything: racing games, puzzle platformers, and let me see here, the first ever Justice League video game. Released way back in 1995, long before Injustice was even a glint in NetherRealm's eye, we had Justice League Task Force. Developed for the Super Nintendo and Sega Mega Drive by Blizzard and Condor respectively, Condor who by the way would ironically later be absorbed into Blizzard in fact, the game brings together all the iconic DC heroes you would expect, including Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman and all the other ones, you know, the less important ones. I'm kidding, I'm sorry Flash fans, I'm kidding. You play as the Justice League member of your choice and fight your way through android duplicates of the other team members, as well as baddies like Cheetah, in an effort to get to Darkseid and foil his attack on Earth. Very much capitalising on the popularity of the genre at the time, Justice League Task Force had a unique selling point in its use of established and much loved characters, fighting against iconic location backdrops. Add to this a multiplayer mode and you've got a game that should have kept fans enthralled for generations, but unfortunately despite its comic book appeal it failed to break the stranglehold that Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat had on the era and faded into the mist, leaving DC fans bereft until Injustice came along 2 decades later. Number 8, Azour Dreams, Konami. One of the biggest video game companies of all time, Konami has been plying us with quality gaming content since the 70s, and so understandably a lot of even its good games have gotten lost in that massive back catalogue. One of those very lost, very good games is Azour Dreams, a roguelike monster breeding game for the PS1. Set in the desert town of Monsbaya, you play as Ko, a young adventurer searching for his father who went missing inside the town's monster tower. And so you do what of course anyone would do, you team up with a monster familiar to reach the top of the tower and uncover the truth. The focus of the game is gaining experience, leveling up and hatching monsters whose abilities allow you to tackle the tower's higher levels while building up the town around it. Far from a one-dimensional dungeon crawler, the game balances the adventure aspects with Ko's social life, including presenting the option to uncover and pursue love interests in the town. So what happened to it? Well, Azour Dreams came out in 1997 and a little game called Metal Gear Solid then sprung up a year later, and then Silent Hill the year after. So yeah, Konami were a bit too busy to ever return to Azour Dreams, sadly. Number 7, Kuon, From Software. Whilst From Software have been at the head of some of the most revered titles of the modern age, including Dark Souls, Bloodborne and Elden Ring, it doesn't mean that all of their games have received the acclaim or longevity that they perhaps deserve. Before the Dark Souls era, From Software were toiling away on releases that hit the shelves and then hit the bargain bins the next year, barely stopping to catch a breath. And among these is survival horror game Kuon, which dropped on the PS2 in 2004, or 2006 in Europe, before it was all but forgotten. And yet the game has much to offer. Alpha. It charts the mysterious events at Fujiwara Manor in Kyoto back in Japan's Heian period, following the trail of an exorcist who has gone missing. Despite sporting a fixed camera style, a format as divisive as it is now rare, Kuon makes the most of its limited perspective to supply genuine scares while employing its setting and lore in crafting an immersive world. Ironically, the best way to describe it from a surface level is Silent Hill in Japan, so imagine Silent Hill F but 20 years ago and really, really weird. And if that catches your attention, well, good luck getting hold of a copy, as at least here in the UK the game has become an expensive and hard to find collectible due to its limited release. Number 6, Actra, Square Enix. I am forever haunted by Square's decision to, quote, concentrate on core games towards the end of 2022, as it means that so many great titles from their catalogue won't be getting the love that they so dearly deserve. What I'm saying is, where's my Parasite Eve remake? But Parasite Eve isn't the only great genre-smashing game that Square produced in the past, and one that's perhaps a little more unknown is 1990's Actra. Developed technically by Quintet, who had a close relationship with Enix before they vanished off the face of the planet in the early 2000s, Actra is a unique blend of side-scrolling adventure game and top-down strategy title. Players must help a small civilization grow and prosper, as you would in many games of its ilk, but are also tasked with defending it from direct attack from flying monsters in action stages. What's remarkable is that despite crossovers of genre being very rare at the time, Actra manages to pull both parts off sublimely, with neither feeling like the focus and the other feeling hastily slapped on top. Even more incredibly, it was the studio's first ever outing. Square released a remake in 2021, which, like the original, seemed to review well, but remained under the radar. I mean, heck, I didn't even know it existed before this video. And hey, Actra is currently up for some awards as part of WhatCulture Gaming's Retrospective Game Awards 1990 episode, which you can vote on right now via the link in the description. That's pretty neat. Number 5, the Unfinished Swan, Giant Sparrow. Independent games developer Giant Sparrow, which features just a 3-person dev team, has enjoyed rampant success with its artistic first-person exploration game, What Remains of Edith Finch, but what of the company's first efforts? The Unfinished Swan is an adventure maze game set within a blank world where you must throw paint around in order to determine the landscape around you, and then to solve puzzles and progress through a mysterious kingdom. It may not sound like much on the surface, but it makes for a compelling and surprisingly effective story, following a boy named Monroe whose mother has recently died and who pursues a swan that has escaped a painting while learning the parallel story of a lonely king. Its abstract approach to gameplay and environment meant that it was always going to be an outsider, especially with its brief runtime, but given the popularity of its successor, it seems there may be no better time to revisit the Unfinished Swan than now. Number 4, Disruptor, Insomniac Games. First-person shooters in the 90s weren't what they are today, but they did have their charm. I mean, just check out how many people still play the original Doom titles, and I'm one of them, so I would know. Yet many have been lost in the mix, succumbing to an oversaturation of similar games in the market and endless progress in development. Buried at the very beginning of Insomniac's catalogue behind a solid block of 7 Spyro and Ratchet & Clank games is Disruptor, a 1996 PlayStation FPS. The game features a crazy array of weapons, an involved future-set storyline about a couple of new Lightstormer Corps recruits with psychic powers, and a strong balance of strategic gameplay and violence. And the first part of that at least sets it apart from Doom and its many clones that were more about visceral and immediate thrills. Still, there was never any good reason for Insomniac to revisit or in any other way acknowledge their first effort, given how quickly and successfully they pivoted into family-friendly platformers, and on top of that, how they've had no trouble remaining current and relevant in the intervening years. I mean, just look at Spider-Man. But this is a wonderful example of a forgotten gem that deserves to be remembered. Number 3, Disaster Day of Crisis, Monolith Soft. Monolith Soft are a studio with a hell of a history, going from cult classic status thanks to Baten, Kaitos and Xenogears to being a pillar of the Nintendo Switch with the Xenoblade Chronicles trilogy. However, the most out-of-pocket release exists on the Wii. Disaster Day of Crisis offers players the opportunity to face natural disasters, terrorists, and survival situations head-on in typically immersive and interactive fashion, resulting in a panic-inducing game unlike pretty much anything else, particularly non-horror games, seen at the time. Despite it not being a natural fit perhaps for the Wii, that didn't stop Monolith going hell for leather on this one, with shooting, driving, swimming, running, physical puzzles, mini-games and more, and that's without mentioning the Hitman-style stealth levels. If that sounds like a straight-to-video action movie, that's because it kind of is, which makes it a really unique proposition in itself. And yet, because the game's excellence is tied so closely to the Wii's interactive system and mechanics, when the console went out of fashion, the game went with it. And given how its original North American release was cancelled due to poor sales in other territories, and again, Monolith have become something of a big player for Nintendo, well, nobody's in a hurry to revisit it. Number 2, Mercenaries Playground of Destruction, Pandemic. Pandemic Studios were big news in the 2000s, developing some truly iconic games including Star Wars Battlefront and Destroy All Humans! With the scope, imagination and skill to deliver innovative and exciting games, their properties were usually big hits on release, but that didn't always translate to a long lifespan. An oft-overlooked classic, Mercenaries Playground of Destruction was one of Pandemic's greatest games. With war raging between 5 factions, a band of mercenaries parachute in to help turn the tide in whatever direction they see fit, and no points for guessing that you play as said mercenaries. Of course, you're treated to a vast sandbox open-world environment, once a rival GTA at the time, featuring an unparalleled level of destruction. Yes, you can raise skyscrapers, and the power to decide how you want to complete your missions. And yet, Mercenaries never achieved the status or permanence of its competitors. While the sequel advanced the action into online play and was loads of fun, it also felt a bit rushed. If Pandemic hadn't been bought and then killed by EA in 2009, the 2 further planned Mercenary sequels may not have seen the light of day regardless. And number 1, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, Pipeworks Studio. While the natural pick for a forgotten mecha monster fighting title might be Capcom's Techromancer, there is an equally good but even less remembered example of the genre from Pipeworks. Now, you might be asking, who are Pipeworks? Which is a great question to ask in this scenario, and also a scenario where you're looking for a plumber, maybe. Whilst they may not hold the same kind of name value as most on this list, they have a tremendous back catalogue, helping to put together expansions and ports of Madden, Call of Duty and Devil May Cry, as well as helming some significant title over the years for the Prince of Persia franchise and pretty much every single Godzilla game there is. And so we turn to the company's 2002 effort, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, released on the GameCube and Xbox. Perhaps the best Godzilla console game, Destroy All Monsters Melee allows you to stomp all over a city environment, razing buildings and slaughtering countless innocents while duking it out with other kaiju and mechas using an array of attacks and special abilities. Sure, there are many games like it, but this one in particular is packed to the gills with familiar characters that we know and love from Toho's Godzilla franchise, King Ghidorah, Megalon, Rodan. You can even summon my favourite Mothra for essentially an airstrike. It's a real shame that this title has never received so much as a port to any modern console storefront, as it's debatably the pinnacle of destroying all monsters in a melee. Let us know down in the comments below any other classic games from big studios that most people don't talk about. There's a video on screen now about video games that deserve a remake. Maybe one of the games on this list is on it, I don't know. But thank you for watching and have a good week.